Okay, in today's episode of the Platform Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Yellin. He's hailing over from the team at Project 10K, and they're doing something super interesting. I mean, there's a lot of founders, single founders, entrepreneurs, marketers, growth marketers listening to the show, and the concept that 10K is following on. I mean, we're going to deep dive into this, but it's super interesting. The way I perceive it is sort of a co-founder as a service, but I'm pretty sure Jared will give us a full insight on what it's all about and how he's thinking about growth for the company. So, Jared, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Lucas, man, thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing. I love the intent behind your show, and I'm an open book. So feel free to ask me anything that will serve your community.
Of course. So, yeah, maybe let's start with a 360 overview. In your own words, what is Project 10K all about?
It's a disruption to an industry that has never been disrupted. And if you think about it, Lucas, every industry has been disrupted, from the food industry to hospitality to transportation to banking. Like right now, blockchain is disrupting banking and every industry. And there's something rightfully so, because when an industry becomes inefficient, innovation will come in and disrupt it. But somehow, some way, there's one industry that is mediocre at best, and I would say broken, that has not been disrupted yet. And that industry has actually hurt more people than it helped. And the success rate in that industry is 1 to 2%. How is it possible that an industry with a 1 to 2% success rate has not been disrupted? And that industry is an industry that you and I love, but so many people hate. And it's called entrepreneurship. Because when somebody says, I'm going to go after my dream, what do, Lucas? They get on a boat, and that boat takes them to an island. And it drops them off on that island, and then it leaves them there. And it says, go and figure out everything by yourself. Figure out how to set up the entity the right way. Go figure out how to set up the bank account and bookkeeping regulations. Go learn direct response marketing copy and graphic design and onboarding. And if it's a tech product, go figure out how to build tech or go and build a software development team. And there are so many points of failure on the journey for the entrepreneur. And at an early stage, if any one or two of those is off, most likely it will lead to the implosion of a dream. So what we're doing is disrupting entrepreneurship. And the way we're doing that is through one word, and that word is together. We have built an ecosystem of entrepreneurs from around the world. And in any ecosystem, like nature, for example, everybody has a role. Well, the same holds true in our ecosystem. And what's really profound is that in our ecosystem, everything is shared, just like nature. So end users are shared, strategic alliances are shared, investors are shared, strategies are shared, emotional support is shared. So our disruption is taking an industry which is completely broken, 1 to 2% success rate, and transforming it radically to a 90% success rate. And that sounds crazy, but so did getting in a random person's car and having them drive you from point A to point B. And so did sleeping on someone's couch, but now people do it on a regular basis. Anything that was once deemed unconventional becomes conventional, and that's exactly what we're doing here at Project 10K.
I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, entrepreneurs, they face new obstacles every day. From a simple thing, what's the right lawyer to take? What's the everything? Every little step will have that learning curve to it. So this is very interesting. Now, how does it look like on a practical level? I'm an entrepreneur. I'm interested in working with you guys. Like, what do I need to do? What can I expect?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that I've learned as a result of being what I call a non-technical tech founder is that's really hard, is that you have this tech idea, but you're not an engineer. So where do you start? So what most people do when they start is they'll go out and try to find a software development firm to support them, which is very difficult to do because now you're hiring a vendor to support your dream. And there's always going to be some level of value misalignment. So the likelihood of that relationship turning into what you ultimately desire is very, very small. So then you say, okay, I'm going to go and find a CTO. Well, that's almost impossible because that's not just anyone. Like, that's not just finding an engineer. Like, that's an engineer that knows how to build a team. And there's never really been a tech company that's made it because they had one engineer. They had somebody that was able to go build out either a small team or a large team to support the evolution of that entrepreneur's vision. So on a practical level, what this looks like is Project 10K is a tech ecosystem. We have entrepreneurs from around the world that come through our process. And our process consists of a pitch session, a due diligence session, and then finally co-foundership. And in that first step, which we call the pitch session, we are looking for 4 things from entrepreneurs. The first is that they are the right person or people. The second is it's the right idea. The third is they're entering the right market. And the fourth is that they've clearly thought through the right business model. And when those four things are present, Lucas, we will co-found a company with that entrepreneur. We will both take equity in that company, so our values are just perfectly aligned. And then we will take the responsibility to build the entire company at cost. And that's everything from the software development to the business development, the sales, the customer support, the legal, the bookkeeping, the onboarding, the branding, the media, everything. And about 97% of the initial cost for what we call the minimum viable company is at cost in a company that I've owned since 2017 in India. So the risk is low and the cost is low. So as a result of that, we can bring products to market very quickly, very inexpensively, with very little risk. So about 2 years ago, we launched Project 10K. And the mission of Project 10K is to build, scale, and sell 10,000 tech companies over the next 10 years. And in our first 2 weeks, Lucas, we actually ended up co-founding 7 companies. And my CTO, his name is Mani. He lives in Toronto now. He used to live in New York where I was living. Called me up and he's like, Jared, you have to slow down. And I'm like, no, man, you got to speed up, bro. We have 9,993 to go and I feel a ton of pressure. But he was right. I was flying a plane and he was attempting to put wings on it. I was flying it. So we slowed down for about 6 months just to build more human infrastructure. We had about a dozen people on the team at that time. Over that period of quote unquote slowdown, we grew to a few hundred people, and then we stepped on the gas and we have not looked back since. So over the past 15-ish months, we've had thousands of entrepreneurs come into that process that I explained before, and we've co-founded slightly over 150 companies in our first year, which is way more remarkable than 10,000 in 10 years, because this was our year to truly figure this thing out. And as proud as I am about the fact that we figured it out, but what I'm more proud of is this, Lucas, we are not playing law of averages, because law of averages would state build and scale 10,000 companies and get 3 unicorns. So those 3 entrepreneurs are great. We're great because we're a holding company, and everyone else suffers the same way they would suffer if they did it by themselves. There is so much intentionality, due diligence, validation testing in our process that by the time we say yes, it's because we see a clear path to build it, to scale it, and to sell it. Not necessarily all unicorns, because obviously there's a lot of luck to that, but there's a place in the world for that entrepreneur's dream.
That makes a lot of sense. Very, very interesting. How should I imagine this as a founder? So if I, go along with you like 2 or 3 years down the line, you're building out the company, how does the relationship with 10K look like?
We are co-founders. So we are on the journey from literally napkin, because that's what we're looking at. These are napkin ideas. We are at the concept phase. So we do not look at things beyond the concept phase. One of the things I've learned is there's no home for the ideas of the world, and there's more ideas than anything else in the world. So we are the home of the idea. When people come to us, what they have is what we call a problem and solution statement. They have a high-level idea of what their business model will be, and they believe that they're the most relevant person on the planet to solve that problem. Those are the 4 things that we're looking for out of the get in their pitch session. So that's what they come with. We then have them go through an exercise, go a little bit deeper with us, but it's just the idea phase. And we go from literally setting up their picking their name, setting up their company, to selling their company. And the sell of the company is not this long, arduous journey. We look to sell every company within 18 to 36 months. Obviously, there's some that we may hold on for longer than that. We are masters of what we call 0 to 1. 0 to product market fit, hit a very specific milestone. There are thousands of organizations out there that will take things from 1 to infinity. 1 to infinity, I define as very arduous. 0 to 1 is exciting, it's agile, it's liberating. And I truly believe that like purebred entrepreneurs should just stay in the 0 to 1 phase and then pass the baton to organizations that have different type of infrastructure to go from 1 to infinity. And they'll have way more fun staying in 0 to 1.
That's super interesting, because there's I guess a couple of schools of thought on that, right? Like some founders love to go the long mile and make it their lifelong mission, versus we're describing suggesting they're a different model. That is super, super interesting. Okay, cool. So how do entrepreneurs learn about 10K? What's their journey? How do they get in touch with you guys? Like, what's the client acquisition, or not client, I should say, the co-founder acquisition strategy?
So it's really fun. I would encourage everyone that listens to this or watches this to go through the process. It's a really fun experience. So the first step is what we call a pitch-a-thon. It's a 5-minute session with a portion of our leadership team. I'm usually involved with every pitch-a-thon. We do these for many hours throughout every single week. And 5 minutes probably sounds like nothing, but we provide you with training to make it everything. Because in 5 minutes, when done right, you will make it feel like 45 minutes, not because it's boring, but because you just packed in so much value in those 5 minutes. So we give you a very specific training, a pitch deck, and a manual to prepare you for your 5-minute pitch. And I would invite everyone that's listening or watching this to at least take that step with some idea that you scribbled on a napkin, you're probably not going to execute on because you haven't found the right person or organization to execute with, or it's burning a hole in your pocket because you know it needs to be executed on, but you just don't know where to go. You don't know what that next step is. So I invite you to go to project10k.com/pitch. And just fill out the form. We'll get you scheduled, and then you'll have a chance to pitch us. 5 minutes. It's a 5-minute pitch. I always tell everybody, Lucas, you are one pitch away from having everything you want in your life and more. This might just be that pitch for you. I hope it is. And as long as you come prepared, if we give you all the training, it might just be that pitch.
Awesome. Very cool. Now, what role, because we love to talk about specific roles, sort of, strategies and ideas as well. Maybe first, what role do you think the website plays? Like project10k.com, you were just mentioning it there. How do you think about the page? What role does it play in the journey of the founder, learning about you guys?
So you mean our website or
your website,
our portfolio company? It tells our story. So this is one of the things that's really important. I would encourage everybody to recognize that the purpose of a website, and we have obviously built many of them just in the nature of what we're doing. And in my life, I used to run a marketing agency, so maybe over 1,000 websites we built. The purpose of any website is to engage your audience on what we call an emolectual level. An emolectual is defined as emotion and intellectual. So emotion means that when somebody is on your website and they're reading your website, that they have a feeling, and that feeling is this feels right. On the intellectual side, that means that it's intriguing them on an intellectual level, stimulating them, and what that's defined as is it makes sense. So that's the role of a website, is to engage people both emotionally and intellectually. So they say this feels right and it makes sense. And then they make a decision, whether that's to sign up for something, to buy something, to enroll in something, to share something, etc.
Very cool. You mentioned actually you worked on 1,000 websites, and if we in the HubSpot environment, the Pathmark world, like a lot of inbound marketers coming together on this show a lot, and very often we talk about like how do you actually get more conversions? What can you do? What is methods, approaches, tools that you're using? Now, having seen 1,000 websites, what have you picked up? Like, what is a few key things that entrepreneurs or marketers should do in order to make sure people that are coming to the website, actually get interested enough to sign up?
You have to get extremely clear on who you're selling to. Like, you need to know your end user like they're your best friend. You need to know everything about them. You need to know what they're excited about, what they're scared about, what their goals and aspirations are. You have to know what's holding it back. You really have to know your end user. And in many ways, you have to kind of become your end user if you're not already your end user, and then go through all of your online properties, everything from your website to your cold outbound to everything, and pretend like you are a receiver of the message. And as a receiver of your own message, if you're turned off, annoyed, disengaged, then you're missing the mark on the message. And I talk about this quite a bit because the world of cold outbound, whether it's through email or through LinkedIn or any of these platforms, is truly a profound way to build relationship capital. And it's become bastardized and ruined by people that are making it goofy and awkward. Like everybody out there that does cold outbound, stop taking pictures of yourself holding up a piece of paper with my name on it. Like, that's just goofy. Like, no one does business with goofy. Like, it just doesn't work. Whereas if you do it the right way, you build meaningful relationship capital. And the purpose of the website is to do that. Engage them emotionally, intellectually. With regards to actually building of the sites, we have a big team, so I don't know all the widgets and gadgets that they're using for conversion, but I'm a salesperson. So as a salesperson, what I do is I focus on driving the right traffic to any of our online properties. And the way that I drive the right traffic to any online property is I build the right relationship capital, relevant relationship capital. So I have a B2B SaaS platform, my first B2B SaaS platform that I launched years ago, that has tens of thousands of paying users. It's a marketing software for small businesses. And 0 of our users have been acquired through running Facebook ads. And the reason for that is because I don't like Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's a complete and utter sellout. So I'm like, there's no way I'm paying that dude to get a sale. So instead, what we did was we built meaningful relationships across every industry that we entered so that we had the right person to talk about our solution in the industry. And the reason this matters is that for every one of you out there, there's a product, a service, a platform, etc., there is someone or someones that have the keys to the kingdom of what you want to get to, which is a community of people that will buy your solution. You can circumnavigate them, which means you're going to have to pay Mark Zuckerberg and hope that you get someone's attention, or you partner with them, you form a strategic alliance with them, and then they start to promote your product, platform, and services to their community, driving them to your site, which by proxy will lead to higher levels of conversion because they are already know, liked, and trusted inside of their ecosystem. So my trick is not so much about the widgets, the gadgets, the placements, etc. It's about ensuring that I have the right relationships, promoting the right offer, and then as a result, we get very high conversions.
And that would even be on a sort of a one-to-one basis. You're talking to individuals out there and introducing your concept.
One to get one to many. So I focus on high leverage. Like let's use Product 10K as an example. If that's cool, right? So for Product 10K, we want access to entrepreneurs that have tech ideas. That's what we're looking for. That's the community we want to step into. So what we do is we do one to one to one to many. So what we do is we reach out to incubators, accelerators, real entrepreneur influencers, not like the Instagram ones, like real people of influence over entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, events, ecosystems, because what they have is what we want, a community of people that have ideas. So let's use tech accelerators as an example. So we will reach out to a tech accelerator, introduce ourselves, and then give them a quote unquote demo. We're not literally demoing anything, but a demo of what we do. So we speak through our process, we speaker review. So we have founders, the roles and responsibilities, and the tech accelerators are like, wow, this is amazing. You play a role in our community's life that we don't currently play. And we are only able to help entrepreneurs once they get to a certain point. You're coming in beneath that. So all the people that are coming through our process and applying to join and work with us that we're saying no to, we don't want to send them off on their own. We're going to send them to you. So we're now going to direct people to you so that you can see whether or not you're going to say yes. And if you say yes and co-found a company with them, we're going to give the accelerator equity in the individual company. And then we're going to build the company up to a point so that it can reapply for the accelerator's program. And it will definitely get accepted because we know exactly what the accelerators are looking for. That's what it looks like. It's a one-to-one to a one-to-many, because once the accelerator says we're in, they're then promoting Project 10K to 5,000 people that have applied for their program that have been denied over the past 2 years. One-to-one to one-to-many. I encourage everybody to start thinking that way. Do demos of whatever you offer, whether it's a tech platform or a service that you offer. Find a way to make it demonstrable so people can see it. Get really specific on who has the keys to the kingdom of your end user. Do a demo for the king or queen so that they're like, this is really cool. And then they'll promote a one-to-many demo to their audience of ideal end users for you, and then find a way to make it worth their while economically so that they continue to do it for you.
Makes a whole lot of sense. Jared, as we're slowly approaching the end of the interview, I have some rapid fire questions for you to get to know you a little bit better and your journey. Are you ready for those?
Let's do it, man.
What's the last book you read or the last podcast you listened to?
The last book or last podcast. So my dear friend, I want to make sure I say the right name of the podcast, Luke Iora. He just launched a podcast, which is really unique, like extremely unique. So it's called On This Walk. And I would encourage everybody to check it out. On This Walk. It's more on the personal development side, but really thought-provoking. And he's extraordinary. So On This Walk.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
So we have this very cool initiative right now. And depending on when this drops, you might be able to participate in it for yourself. So one of the things that we are doing here is we are democratizing entrepreneurship. We're democratizing the technology industry. And what that means is we've created a seat at the table for everybody. We actually just created an entirely new table. So what's really interesting because right now we have more women founders than men founders, which wasn't even intentional, it just happened. We have almost every ethnicity represented already in our co-founder pool. Our youngest founder is 11 and the oldest is 77, because it's never too early and never too late to become a tech founder, and we have high school dropouts and Ivy League graduates. So it's democratized. It's like we have so many different types of people that are in this ecosystem already. So as much as I stand to democratize becoming a tech founder, which I do, I also stand to democratize investing in tech companies at an early stage. And one of the challenges that existed in the world up until recently is the only way to invest in early stage tech is to be accredited. And that's a term that the SEC uses. You have to have a certain income level and or net worth as an individual or as a family. And what it does is it cuts out like 97% of the world, maybe even more than that, are just not allowed to invest in vehicles like our company. And that to me is a disservice to those people, because there are many people that are not accredited that have more money than those that are accredited because they just live within their means. But they're told they can't make a $1,000 or $10,000 or $25,000 investment in a private placement vehicle. So a few years ago, there was a new initiative that came out called Reg CF, and Reg CF stands for Regulation Crowd Fund. What that means, it allows both accredited and not accredited investors to invest in early stage private placement opportunities. So we have partnered with a platform called WeFunder, and WeFunder is like on the kind of the bleeding edge of the Reg CF. They were the ones that kind of caused this initiative to take place. It's an equity crowdfunding platform. And for the first time ever, we are, as a holding company, we are raising $5 million on WeFunder and allowing non-accredited investors to get involved for as little as $1,000. It's crazy, Lucas. This has never happened before. This is from an investment perspective, it's complete disruption. It's garnering a ton of attention and a ton of press. So for anyone who's interested in actually owning a portion of Project 10K, owning shares in our holding company, which means that as a result of that, the holding company owns all the companies, right? There's over 100 companies today. There'll be 10,000 companies over the handful of years. It's a crazy investment opportunity. Plus, you're in our ecosystem. Go to wefunder.com/project 10K. There's a chance it's already filled because there's just a lot of attention around this. So even if it's filled, just check it out because it's never been done before. If it's not filled, I'd invite you to get involved. This is a complete disruption. It's giving everyday people, wonderful people, a chance to invest in a holding company.
Sure. That was fantastic. That gives people actually a very actionable thing to do to check out and learn about more what you guys are doing. Last question, right? If today would be your very first day starting to work on Project 10K, what's the one advice you would give yourself?
It's what I did when I first started. So I do this whenever I start anything, right? And every one of our companies does the exact same thing. I take out this crazy device here, which has all of the most important assets in your life called your relationships. And I start scrolling through and I find in my phone people that I already know or that wouldn't be in there in the first place. I start scrolling through and I find the top 10 people that are most relevant for the offer that I'm making. So that first day, I can put points on the board.
Very cool, Jared. Appreciate you taking the time to be a guest on Platform Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Project 10K, what's the one thing that they should remember?
One thing you should remember is this: if you have an idea on a napkin, you have an idea on a piece of paper, take yourself seriously enough to at least pitch it, just at least, because maybe, just maybe, that idea on a piece of paper is meant to become a company that goes on a journey to build, scale, and sell. I am positive right now there is a better version of Google, Facebook, Clubhouse, HubSpot, etc. in the graveyard, because someone just like you had the idea on a piece of paper, but they didn't have the courage to execute. Don't be one of those people. Don't be one of those people. Execute on that idea, and I invite you to do it with us. You don't do it alone. project10k.com/pitch, and I cannot wait for your 5-minute pitch.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Platform Presents.